You've been here before. That moment when something inside you finally clicks. Maybe it was a video you watched late at night, headphones on, lights off. Maybe it was a book that somehow described you better than people who have known you for years. Maybe it was a conversation that stayed with you long after it ended. For a brief moment, everything felt clear. You could see the version of yourself you wanted to become. You could imagine how your life would feel if things are different. You could sense movement, direction, possibility. And in that moment, you told yourself something familiar. This time is different. And for a short while, it really did feel different. You woke up earlier. You paid attention to your choices. You felt lighter, more intentional, more alive. It felt like the beginning of change. And then motivation faded. Not suddenly, not dramatically. It didn't crash or explode. It didn't disappear in a way you could easily explain. It simply thinned out. One morning, it wasn't there. One decision felt heavier than usual. One excuse sounded more reasonable than it should have. And before you knew it, you were back where you started, again. If that cycle feels uncomfortably familiar, this channel is probably meant for you. Most people think motivation fading is the failure. They talk about motivation as if it's something you either have or don't have, as if the problem is that you didn't hold on to it tightly enough, as if the solution is to find a stronger source of inspiration next time. So they chase motivation. They save quotes, they watch more videos, they reread the same books, they restart their plans over and over again. But motivation fading is not the problem. It's a signal, and until you understand what that signal is pointing to, you'll keep restarting your life in different forms, wondering why nothing ever sticks. Let's slow this down and look at motivation honestly. Motivation is not discipline. It's not commitment. It's not identity. Motivation is an emotional response. It's what happens when your mind catches a glimpse of a better version of you and reacts to that image. Motivation is excitement without history, energy without structure, hope without responsibility. That's why it feels so powerful, but that's also why it's unstable. Motivation always arrives before reality. It shows up before repetition, before boredom, before discomfort, before failure. It shows up when everything is still clean in your imagination. No missed days, slow progress, no friction, just possibility. And possibility is intoxicating. Motivation fades because it is supposed to. It was never designed to carry you through repetition. Repetition is quiet. Repetition is boring. Repetition has no applause. Motivation, on the other hand, is exciting. It feels like progress even when nothing has actually changed yet. That's the trap. Motivation gives you the feeling of movement without demanding consistency. And the moment consistency is required, motivation steps aside. Every time. I want to pause here for a second. I don't make content for everyone. I make it for people who notice patterns in themselves and are honest enough to sit with them. If this feels like it's describing you, staying connected here matters. This channel isn't about hype. It's about understanding yourself clearly over time. Here's where most people get trapped. When motivation shows up, people mistake the feeling of change for actual change. They feel different, so they assume they are different, but feelings don't survive pressure. The moment the routine becomes boring, the moment progress feels slow, the moment nobody is watching, the feeling disappears. And without the feeling, the behavior collapses. This is why so many people say, "I don't know what happened." Nothing happened. Motivation left the room, and there was nothing underneath it. Think about the last time you felt inspired. You probably planned something new, a routine, a system, a reset. For a few days, things felt aligned. But then something small happened. You missed one day, you slept late once, you felt tired or distracted. And suddenly the momentum vanished. Not because you failed, but because the feeling was gone. And without the feeling, the plan felt heavy. So you delayed, you postponed, you told yourself you'd restart properly later. And that restart felt hopeful, clean, comforting. Most people don't quit, they restart. Restarting feels responsible, it feels optimistic, it feels like you haven't given up yet. But restarting resets the cycle. Motivation comes back, pressure disappears, hope returns, and nothing actually changes. This loop can last years, entire lives sometimes. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself, this channel is for you. Not because I have answers for you, but because we're asking the right questions. If you want to keep going deeper instead of restarting alone, subscribe. Here's where most people avoid looking at. When motivation fades, part of you feels relief, not disappointment, relief. Because now you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to confront your limits yet. You can imagine again instead of execute. And imagination feels safer than responsibility. When motivation fades, there's a quiet moment most people don't talk about, a moment where the pressure lifts. You don't have to wake up early anymore. You don't have to push through discomfort. You don't have to confront whether you're capable of consistency. You can relax, and that relief feels subtle but powerful, because pressure isn't just effort. Pressure is exposure. Pressure forces you to find out who you are when nobody is cheering you on. Motivation shields you from that. Consistency removes the shield. Consistency is dangerous to your current identity because once you act consistently, excuses stop working. You can't say, I'm just waiting for the right time. You can't say, I'll start properly when things settle. You can't hide behind intention. Consistency asks the heavier question, who are you choosing to be even when it's uncomfortable? That question is confronting, and most people instinctively retreat from it. This is why motivation-based change always collapses. Motivation allows you to feel aligned without becoming accountable. Identity-based change demands accountability before comfort. Motivation says, look at who you could be. Identity says, this is who you're becoming, whether you feel ready or not. Most people prefer the fantasy. Every restart teaches your mind something. It teaches it that discomfort is temporary, that pressure can be escaped, that you don't actually have to follow through. Every restart weakens your trust in yourself, not consciously, but quietly. You begin to doubt your own intentions. You start expecting motivation to disappear, and when you expect something to fail, you unconsciously prepare for it. This cycle is hard to break because it doesn't feel destructive, it feels productive. You're learning, you're reflecting, you're resetting, but reflection without execution becomes avoidance, and restarting becomes a ritual that keeps you safe from failure and growth. If you're noticing how often you've lived inside this cycle, that awareness matters. This channel exists for people who want to stop repeating patterns instead of decorating them. If you want to keep unraveling this honestly, stay here. This is why the core message of Atomic Habits is so often misunderstood. People hear small habits and think it's about motivation management. It's not. It's about identity reinforcement. Habits don't stick because you want them badly enough. They stick because each repetition casts a vote for who you believe you are. Motivation doesn't cast votes, repetition does. Here's the cruel irony. Most people quit right before identity starts to shift. Not when things are exciting, but when things become boring. Because boredom is where identity is forged, and boredom feels meaningless before it becomes powerful. So if motivation fading isn't the real problem, if restarting feels safer than continuing, then there must be something you're getting out of this cycle. Something subtle, something you don't talk about, and that's where this goes next. There is a benefit to staying inconsistent, a psychological reward, and it's not laziness, it's protection. Staying inconsistent protects you from finding out uncomfortable truths, like whether you're actually capable of following through, or whether your goals would still matter once excuses disappear. Trying keeps your self-image intact. Trying says, I'm the kind of person who wants better. Doing says, I am responsible for what happens next. Responsibility is heavy. Trying is light. Motivation lives in trying. Consistency lives in responsibility. Once you follow through consistently, you lose something. You lose the story of potential. You lose the fantasy of who you might become. You gain reality instead, and reality is harder to protect emotionally. This is why people sabotage progress right when it starts working, not because they're afraid of failure, but because success removes excuses, and without excuses, you're fully accountable to yourself. That level of honesty is rare. If you've never heard motivation explained this way before, there's a reason. Most content avoids this level of self-confrontation. This channel doesn't. If you want to keep having these conversations instead of restarting them alone, subscribe. Motivation will always betray you because it was never loyal. It shows up when things feel good, it disappears when things get real, and real change only happens when things get real. The shift isn't learning how to stay motivated. The shift is learning how to act without motivation, to move without emotional reward, to continue without reassurance. That's where identity changes. Real change starts quietly. No excitement, no inspiration, no announcements, just repetition. And repetition feels meaningless at first, until it isn't. This channel isn't about quick breakthroughs. It's about understanding yourself well enough to stop lying to yourself. That's slower, harder, and far more effective. If you're tired of restarting, if you're ready to stop chasing motivation, if you want to build something that lasts even when the feeling is gone, subscribe. This is not a one-video conversation. It's a process. In the next video, we're going to expose the exact psychological payoff you get from staying stuck, why inconsistency protects you, why progress feels threatening, and how to dismantle this cycle permanently. Once you see it clearly, you won't be able to unsee it.